Today on Lyrics to Go, I pay tribute to the undisputed GOAT of musical theater.
I'm the GOAT, the greatest of all time.
Bet you didn't think you'd hear LL Cool J on this one, did you? Hey there, welcome to Lyrics to Go. I'm Daniel. First of all, I know the finish on this wall paint is kind of glossy. It's just what the place comes with. I'm staying in New Orleans. I'm on a long road trip, making my way to New York and having a great time. And today I'm really excited and honored, really, to be talking to you about not LL, but SS, Stephen Joshua Sondheim, who died in late November, the day after Thanksgiving, at the age of 91, after the most illustrious and prolific musical theater career in all of American musical theater. I mean, there's just no way of overstating the importance of Sondheim to the art form and also just the singularity of him. No one did what he did, both in terms of breadth of his work, scope, and depth in terms of what he did with the art form of telling stories on a stage through lyrics and music. He was a master craftsman of both music and lyrics. Since this is a channel that focuses on lyrics, that's what we're looking at today. And I kind of struggled with how to approach the topic of Sondheim writ large. I mean, it's an enormous body of work, and there's so many things to say about the man and his output and his style. I've already covered one of his songs on a previous episode, an interview I did with my friend and colleague, Peter Mills. We talked about one of his most beloved songs, Finishing the Hat. And so what I thought I would do is a lyrical primer on Sondheim. And in this first part, I want to talk about Sondheim's facility with and really love of conversational lyrics. Now, it just occurred to me as I was editing this episode that the phrase conversational lyrics could easily be taken to mean lyrics that are basically dialogue between two characters. So a conversation between two people or more people set to music. That's not exactly what I mean. When I say conversational, I mean a tone, a flow, a vibe where someone is singing and it feels like speech. But we could do an entire episode on Sondheim's, interactive conversational songs because he does them extremely well too.
Tell me what you feel.
What I feel. You know exactly how I feel.
If you please, I am here.
You are where?
In the treaty house,
In the treaty
or
house.
very near.
Can you hear?
I'm below,
So I know
underneath the floor, and so I can't see anything.
Where you going?
Barcelona,
Oh.
don't get up.
Before I get into it, please subscribe if you haven't. Just click the button below and click the bell next to it so you get notifications whenever I drop new Lyrics to Go fresh content. Please share this video. If you are so inclined, please click like, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments section. If you're new to Sondheim, what are your impressions of him? And if you are not new to him, I would love to hear from you. What are your favorite Sondheim lyrics and why?
Have I got a chick for you? Wait till you meet her. Have I got a chick for you, boy? Who, boy? Smart.
That is my buddy Matt Castle. Hey, Matt. Playing and singing the song Have I Got a Girl for You from the 1970 Sondheim and George Furth musical Company, and that's from the 2006 Broadway revival. Company was a groundbreaking show. It had no plot, basically. It was a series of vignettes about a man named Bobby who's turning 35 and starting to reconsider his solitary bachelor life and really wrestle with the possibility of a longer-term commitment. And he's surrounded by a whole bunch of different married couples who are his friends and who are all, variously worried about him and trying to set him up or warning him off relationships. So he's kind of absorbing all these different perspectives on long-term commitments. And I chose this song to talk about Sondheim's ability with conversational lyrics. He's written that he loves writing conversational songs that sound like speech. They have the rhythms and the cadences of speech. It also tends to have the vocabulary of real people speaking. So unlike a more, let's say, poetic lyricist like Sondheim's mentor, Oscar Hammerstein, who wrote with big soaring poetic metaphors, a lot of nature imagery, climb every mountain and the corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and so on.
There's a bright golden haze on the meadow.
Sondheim wrote the way people speak, and he loved capturing in song the music, the rhythm, the feel of spoken speech. And this allows Sondheim to tell some very detailed storytelling, very in the moment, so that the song becomes part of the fabric of the scene rather than like an interruption in the scene for us to sit and listen to a nice song. And this song is a perfect example. Now, it starts off with an intro that is threaded through with a motif that we hear from the very beginning of the show. And a motif just means like a running musical or lyrical theme that becomes familiar as you go along through the show and kind of helps anchor the story. It lends unity to the score. And it's this Bobby, Bobby, Bobby baby stuff.
Bobby, Bobby, Bobby baby, Bobby booby, Bobby, Robert darling, Bobby we've been
Bobby,
to read. Bobby baby,
Bobby, Bobby,
Angela got
Robble,
something to tell Robert darling, Bobby honey.
These phone calls, these phone messages, these invitations, all of his friends hectoring him and flattering him and cajoling him into coming out and spending time with them. And in this song specifically, the invitations all pertain to trying to set him up with somebody.
Not that you don't know a lot of lovely girls, but Bobby, come on over for dinner. There's someone we want you to meet. Bobby, come on over for dinner. This girl from the office,
My niece from Ohio.
it'll just be the four of us. You'll love her.
Now notice that from the perspective of like traditional songwriting, whether pop songwriting or even traditional musical theater songwriting, these phrases don't really sound like lyrics on the page. What you doing Thursday? Angel, I've got something to tell you. Bobby, come on over for dinner. We hear that over and over again in the show. There's someone we want you to meet. This girl from the office, my niece from Ohio. It'll just be the four of us. You'll love her. You don't really hear a lyric if you just read it out loud. There is one rhyme throughout there that I can tell. Bobby, it's important or I wouldn't call. Bobby, look, I know you hate it and all. Those two rhymes are symmetrical, but the rest of it are just kind of interjections, exclamations, and very colloquial statements. But notice how well they sit on the music and how the combination of this peppy music and these rather everyday urban phrasings or expressions contributes to the story being told. And then we get into the body of the song, and Sondheim switches into a kind of fast jazz waltz, which is perfect for the tone of it. These are his male friends kind of being like, have I got a girl for you? And you notice I just said that, and I said it in the rhythm of the song, which is because the song listens to the way someone would say that and finds the perfect rhythmic scan for it when set to music.
Have I got a girl for you? Wait till you meet her. Have I got a girl for you, boy? Oh, boy. Dumb and with a weakness for Sazerac swings. You give her even the fruit and she swings. The kind of girl you can't send through the mails. Call me tomorrow, I want the details.
And then it ends with a rhyming punchline, which goes back to the kind of confidential nudge, nudge, wink, wink tone of it. Like, call me tomorrow, I want the details. In the second verse, the friend is getting even more knowing, even more wink, wink, with talking about the girl's sexual acumen and skill. Smart.
She's into all those exotic mystiques, the Kama Sutra and Chinese techniques. I hear she knows more than 75. Call me tomorrow if you're still alive.
Very funny punchline, which gets a big laugh. And, it's funnier than the first one. Call me tomorrow, I want the details is merely suggestive. And then Sondheim expertly ups the ante throughout the song, as he always does. And then the third A, which is interesting, we don't go to like a B section. It's just three A's and then kind of a coda or a B section that's kind of standalone at the end of the song, which I'll get to in a second. The third A is all of the men, all of his male friends singing to him. And now the envy of the whole thing gets explicit. Boy, to be in your shoes, what I wouldn't give. I mean, the freedom to go out and live. And that A as well ends with a punchline, not really a laugh out loud, ha ha punchline, but a very clever and forceful summation of what they're saying. And as for settling down and all of that, marriage may be where it's been, but it's not where it's at. Notice the assonance, the alliteration in there. May be where it's been, but it's not where it's at. Sondheim has flow. And then look at what he does in this final section, which we could call a coda for all intents and purposes.
What do you like? You like coming home to a kiss? Somebody with a smile at the door. What do you like? You like indescribable bliss. Then what do you want to get married for? What do you like? You like an excursion to Rome, suddenly taking off to explore. What do you like? You like having meals cooked at home. Then what do you want to get married for? What do you want to get married for?
So notice, of course, the fastidious rhyme scheme: kiss and bliss, door and for, home and home, explore and for. What do you want to get married for becomes the hook of this section. But what I'm pointing out here is those fast da-ga-da-da. If I gave you that rhythm and said, go write a lyric that fits that perfectly, that sits on that music as if it was meant to be there, a lot of people would have a hard time doing that. I would have to really think about it. And also to make it pertinent to the song at hand and be perfect in the context of the storytelling is a real trick. But Sondheim has this innate genius, this incredible feel for the rhythm, the music of the English language. So what do you like? Da-ga-da-da. Not only is it rhythmically precise, it's exactly on point in terms of what these guys are talking about. They're listing all the things a man might want in his life and then following it up with the question, then what do you want to get married for? Which is essentially what they're expressing. They're not really talking about him, they're talking about themselves. And in the second line of each of those quatrains, he finds a 3-syllable word to place on that fast triplet as well, that starts with an S and ends with a Y. Somebody, suddenly. That's a tiny little detail that the ear doesn't even pick up, or at least the conscious mind doesn't, but it gets in there and it adds unity and symmetry and a sense of real precision. Sondheim is an expert at training the audience, training the listener, training the ear to listen very closely, which for a musical theater writer is really not just essential, it's non-negotiable. If your audience is tuning out to the words, they're not following along and they might as well just be listening to the radio at home while doing the Sunday crossword. Another song that's completely built around the rhythms of conversation, and it's a tour de force, would be The Worst Pies in London, which is the introduction of the character Mrs. Lovett in the musical Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
These are probably the worst pies in London. I know what it is to take them. I should know, I make them, but good no, the worst pies in London.
If you've seen the movie version by Tim Burton starring Johnny Depp, you saw Helena Bonham Carter playing Mrs. Lovett. The role was originated by the great Angela Lansbury.
99 times is hard, sir. Even harder than the worst pies in London. Only Lord and nothing more is than just revolting.
So if I just read these lyrics to you, you'll have a hard time telling that this is even a song lyric. It kind of sounds just like a monologue. Wait, what's your rush? What's your hurry? You gave me such a fright. I thought you was a ghost. Half a minute. Come here, sit. Sit you down, sit. All I meant is that I haven't seen a customer in weeks. Did you come here for a pie, sir? Do you hear anything in there that suggests that it should be sung? Well...
What your rush, what your hurry? You gave me such a fright. I thought you was a ghost. Half a minute, can't you sit you down, sit. All I meant is that I haven't seen a customer for weeks. Did you come here for a pie, sir?
That's Sondheim's brilliance here. He finds the music in that. Again, we're in a 3/4 feel, right? A kind of fast waltz, just like we were in the song from Company, interestingly enough. But here the rhythms are even more scattershot. I mean, they're even more constrained by or delineated by how someone would speak. And a particular someone, it's Mrs. Lovett, a kind of scatterbrained, all over the place woman running a decrepit pie shop, very self-deprecating, but also very eager and excited to see a customer. And again, consistent with the one that we saw in Company, midway through the A section, he clicks into a sparser feel with like punctuated words, followed by follow-ups, almost like call and response within the same character. And also, there's more rhyming going on.
Did you come in for a pie, sir? Do forgive me if we had a little vague. What is that? But you think we had the plague? From the way the people keep avoiding, now you don't. Heaven has a try, sir. But there's no one comes in even to inhale. Right you are, sir. Would you like a drop of ale?
So a few things to notice about that. Number one, all kinds of rhyming, both within each little half stanza and across them. So within we've got vague and plague, then inhale and ale. And then across both halves of it, we've got, did you come here for a pie, sir? Heaven knows I try, sir. And that is vintage Sondheim too, creating all different lengths of rhyme beams as I think about them, so that it's this complex web of symmetries that we're listening for and enjoying. Some of them come really quickly, some of them come in a more patient kind of way. The other thing you might notice, if you're perceptive, is these short little 3-syllable interjections where she actually interrupts herself. What is that? So she's saying, do forgive me if my head's a little vague. What is that? But you think we had the plague. And then there's one where she doesn't even finish the thought. From the way that people keep avoiding. No, you don't. And who she's talking to is the rats and bugs that are scurrying all over her horrible pies in her filthy, rundown pie shop, the worst one in London. So we don't just have to take her word for it. Sondheim isn't just telling us it's the worst pies in London. He is showing us. And to make matters even more physicalized, these da-da-da are punctuated with Mrs. Lovett, a little bit of rolling pin choreography. She's trying to stamp them out. She's beating them. That's why she says, what is that? And then, no, you don't. And then for some variety, and also to drive home the point of the song, which is contained in its title, we really need to get that this place is in real trouble if we're going to understand her motivation for what she proposes later, which I won't spoil it if you haven't seen it. So we move into a more lilting, more lyrical chorus. And I mean lyrical in the musical sense, right? It's more soaring, it's more sustained, it's prettier is another way of putting it.
Mind you, I can't hardly blame them. These are probably the worst pies in London.
And yet it still sounds quite a bit like conversation. I mean, it's more organized, it's more stylized, more grouped into rhyming parts so that the thing will have, flow and song-like qualities. And he actually doubles it up and leaves us with some more funny lines in the chorus. The worst pies in London, even that's polite, the worst pies in London. If you doubt it, take a bite. Then he takes a bite.
Is that just disgusting? You have to concede it. It's nothing but crusting. You drink this, you'll need it.
You'll need it. Another fantastic laugh line that always gets a big chuckle from the audience. And part of why it works is that it sounds like conversation. Here, drink this, you'll need it. But then we snap right back into the fast, waltzy feel with the patter of her dialogue sounding lyrics. But here, actually, in the second verse, he ups the rhyme quotient. And I think that's deliberate, right? He's already kind of gotten us accustomed, and she's gotten herself situated in the situation. And here her thoughts become more organized. She's more focused on what she's saying. She's no longer trying to stamp out the vermin that are scurrying around, and she's actually telling more of the story, and it's very, very enjoyable.
And I wonder with the price of meat what it is when you get it. Never thought I'd live to see the day. Men think it was a treat, fighting poor animals what are dying in the street.
And by the way, he's very perceptive about his own lyrics. Whenever there's a chance for a clever callback to use a lyric in a different way, in a different context, he'll often do that. And he does that in this show with the line, and no wonder with the price of meat what it is when you get it. Well, of course, get it has a different meaning. Now, later in the show, Mrs. Lovett is proposing the central idea, the bright idea she has, her light bulb moment, about what they're going to do with both Sweeney's barbershop and her pie shop. And she has this moment where she's waiting for the penny to drop.
I mean, with the price of meat, what it is when you get it, if you get it. Good, you got it.
So I love it when a lyricist can reprise little lyrical motifs, kind of rewarding us. They're like little Easter eggs. If you've been paying attention, you get to have extra fun. The last thing I'll add is that, of course, Sondheim's way with conversational lyrics has been hugely influential on, I guess, several generations now of musical theater writers. You still hear that influence showing up in songs, even though no one does it quite like he did it. Certainly, I absorbed some of this. I don't always do it, but it's always fun to get a chance to. One of my songs, probably one of the songs I get asked for sheet music of the most from actors and performers, one I did actually an episode on called I Don't Think of You, It's All Good, is completely based around a premise that places a character in a situation where she's chatting and kind of running off at the mouth because she's nervous. So much like Mrs. Lovett, she's kind of making it up as she goes along.
Oh, wow, hey, wow, how's it going? I thought you moved out of town. That's what your Facebook said. Well, anyway.
And that conversational vibe was very integral to the concept and the execution of writing that song. Okay, I think I'll leave it there for today because there's a lot of other qualities in Sondheim's writing that I want to highlight, and I want to do each of them justice. So I'll release them, in a series on this Sondheim lyrical primer, and we'll get to dive into each one. I hope you've had fun and enjoyed this installment of Lyrics to Go. I certainly have. If so, I hope you will consider joining my Patreon. Become a subscriber, a supporter, and get bonus content, get early access for every episode, custom playlists, and a bunch of other great perks. You can check it out at patreon.com/lyrics2go. Thank you very much. Until next time, I'm Daniel Maté saying, I've got lyrics to go. Stephen Sondheim certainly did. And now you do too.
And no wonder where the price I'll meet what it is when you get it. Never thought I'd live to see that day. Many think it was a treat finding poor animals what are dying in the street. Mrs. Mooney has a pie shop, does a business, but I noticed something weird. Lately all her neighbors' cats have disappeared. Have to hand it to her, what I calls enterprise. Popping pussies into pies wouldn't do in my shop. Just the thought of it's enough to make you sick. And I'm telling you that pussy cats is quick. No denying times is hard, sir. Even harder than the worst boys in London. Only Lord and nothing more. Is that just revolting or greasy and gritty? It looks like it's molting and tastes like, well, pity a woman alone with limited wind and the worst boys in London. Sir, times is hard. Times is hard.